Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Gonzalez Van Cleve, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Sociology. And I want to start today by thinking about something that happened in 2016. Sociologist Michael Buravoy asked a provocative question in one of his articles. He said, "What does it mean to live for sociology today?" In these times, this question feels morally urgent. And I've come to believe that the answer lies in doing a type of sociology born of the sociological imagination, where the personal troubles of an individual inspire broader understanding of social phenomenon that are bigger than any one individual case can be. In my recent book, Crime Fictions, that sociological imagination was sparked by a boy named Trayvon, but not the Trayvon that you think. A few years after Trayvon Martin was killed, I learned about the other Trayvon. His story never made national news because the accusations made against this Trayvon, the other Trayvon, were so incriminating that the public accepted them as fact, even though they proved to be crime fictions created by the police. Like Trayvon Martin, Trevon Yates was an innocent black boy. And because his name was similar to a wanted man, the police came to his house with the expectation of taking Trayvon back to the station on an armed robbery charge. The police had little evidence in the robbery case, only a tipster who pointed to a neighborhood man named Trey, who was described as having a grill, a boxed haircut, big earrings, and a sleeve of tattoos, and he was about 160 pounds. So without a Trayvon that fit that description, the police went with 17-year-old Trevon Yates, a boy with such profound disabilities that he was more like a neurotypical 9-year-old. Police went to his house with weapons and cuffed Trayvon, putting him into custody despite his parents' pleas. In any other situation, just like we're seeing in ICE arrests, this would be a kidnapping because the police had no warrant and they didn't make an arrest. During the interrogation, Trayvon prayed out loud to God, and he begged for his mom 35 times. And when he maintained his innocence, the police came on stronger. Do you want people to think you're a thug and a hardcore who runs the streets robbing people, who's just gonna sit here and lie, and when all the evidence points towards him? But that was a lie, told by the police, because there was no evidence. One of 42 lies told during the interrogation meant to confuse and terrify the boy until he made a false confession just so the interrogation could stop. And that lens, that way of seeing black suspects as so-called thugs or monsters, was so entrenched that the officers ignored the most compelling evidence in this case, that the Trayvon weeping right in front of them looked nothing like the real suspects. No gold teeth, no sleeve of tattoos, no box haircut. He was only 105 pounds. The only similarity between the Trayvons was that they were both black. And I wondered how many other Trayvons were out there, other boys abducted, interrogated, accused, and even convicted of crimes they did not do. Surely this was another form of racial violence like police shootings or vigilante injustice, and yet legal scholars and the public treated wrongful convictions as some kind of accident or misfires rather than a process of police technique. It was from these so-called accidents that I began to study this as a social problem, as a sociologist, building a data set of cases of wrongful conviction in the United States. Chicago is the largest unified court system in the nation and a place that I've studied exhaustively, but it's also the wrongful conviction capital of the country. As of 2025, 566 of the 3,709 national cases of wrongful conviction are coming from the state of Illinois alone. Black children and teens are disproportionately the targets of wrongful conviction, and that includes a disproportionate amount of disabled children. From this sample of cases, I examine wrongful conviction as having its own life history. It starts with the arrests and extends over decades of time, traveling across legal systems. And by adding layers of data, I rebuild these wrongful conviction cases from the ground up, including interviews, archival material, legal filings, years of fieldwork in the court system, and all of it was done here at Brown with undergraduate students, 20 of them passing the torch alongside me as I built these theories. And what we found was that there was cultural stigmas around race that were so powerful that we placed blind faith in police when evidence, including scientific evidence, says otherwise. There's a boy who's sentenced to life for a double murder, even though the police had him in custody during the time of the murder. There are the so-called Wolfpack cases, many of them, where the DNA did not match any of the boys, but they were convicted anyway. And there were cases where prepubescent boys as young as 7 and 8 years old were charged with murder and sexual assault, despite it being impossible to commit a crime such as sexual assault at such a tender age. And the DNA did not match. And yet in all these cases, we believed, the public, the media, the judges, and the juries. This is a type of routine police violence that is yet to be examined in an era of racial reckoning. In this study, it was racism that was a type of evidence of things unseen that fills the gap between the accusation made by the police and the incriminating narratives they create to make it all seem real. And this is the value of sociology, a way of seeing parts of cultures and practices that are often rendered invisible, cast aside as accidents, but are so much bigger than any single case can possibly be. Thank you very much.